Good evening. I'm going to tell you guys a story about these two boys. You could call them brothers. Their names were Mateo and Friedrich. These two boys grew up together for so many years in their life, and they were totally opposites. One of them would go outside and shoot hoops with his dad. He would skateboard all the time. He would rollerblade, any activity outdoors you can think of, he was doing on a daily basis. Friedrich, on the other hand, was inside binging video games all day. He was always hanging out with friends at the arcade or doing indoor activities 24/7. The only reason these two friends bonded was in one hobby, that was skateboarding. They would skateboard all the time. So a couple years passed by, they enter into their 30s, and Friedrich tells his friend, he says, I would love to go do all those fun things you used to do when you were younger. We should go hang out at the lake or stuff like that. And Friedrich, or Mateo says, I'm just not physically able to do that anymore. And my fun years of doing that stuff is over now because I'm in my 30s. That is a little example of how Friedrich spent his life having that physical body inside on his games, doing his own stuff, and not enjoying those years in his life when he was able to do those things. So we're going to be talking a little bit about time. Charles Darwin says, a man who dares to waste 1 hour of time has not discovered the value of life. Another quote says, you cannot recycle wasted time. So many people take time for granted and they don't realize that that 1 hour or that 30 minutes doing something unprofitable can actually be used to do something profitable and beneficial to better your own life. Let's take a look at some of these time charts real quick. Here's a little chart that shows and documents screen time and how kids spend their time for 1 week. They spend 18.6 hours on screens per week. They spend 14.6 hours on indoor screen time. They spend 10 hours playing outside with friends, which is a pretty low hours compared to everything else. They have adult and parent bonding for about 9 hours a week. They play sports or do other activities for 5.3 hours, and they spend about 2 hours doing homework. That's kids per week and how much time they spend on devices and doing other activities. Let's look at the average time spent in a person's lifetime. The average time in a lifetime for people doing homework is about 1 year and 8 months. They spend about 1 year and 11 months socializing with others and doing activities in groups. They spend 2 years and 2 months shopping. They spend about 3 years eating and drinking. And then they spend 6 years using social medias, 8 years watching TV, and 26 years sleeping. So right there is 14 hours 14 years that people spend on social media and wasting time in those 14 years. And those 14 years usually become between the ages of 3 and about 18. Those years in your life is when people don't keep good time management. In school, they're in study hall after their class. They have a test coming up in 2 weeks. They'd rather fool around than study for that test. So many people take time so for granted and they don't realize that 3 hours worth of their time that they wasted could have been spent doing something that would make better experiences for them in the long run.